for technology failure, but well, thank you for subscribing, watching our channel. Today we've got a 2014 Nissan Qashqai with a 1.2 turbo petrol with a rattly chain, so I'll be changing it. Okay, I'll start it up just to show it's rattling for real. As you can hear this like tuk 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 noises. That's a typical of a timing chain rattle noise. So I don't want to run it for too long because I don't want the timing chain to slip accidentally. So because that could cause more damage. But yeah, so we'll start stripping it. First things first, we'll have to jack it up, axle stand, remove the under tray, partially remove the wheel arch, just to bend it out of the way, and then we can actually have access to everything else. Right, let's do that. As you can see, I got most of my tools out, more or less in a big pile. Not very organized, but it's there. That should be enough. Let's see. Good old cardboard comes to the rescue. I just put it at the back of the subframe. Right, that's holding. Right, let's remove the under tray. This under tray hasn't got too many clips anymore. This is not so easy. And I had 4 clips left, a whole bunch of self-tappers. Yeah, one thing I haven't brought it is a Phillips screwdriver. Sometimes you don't expect to have self-tappers holding things up, but it's better than nothing. Right. Right. Big old on the tray, a bit of an oil leak. So I reckon that's coming from the oil filter. The whole reason the timing chains tend to rattle is due to lack of servicing or irregular servicing or use of wrong oil. And I reckon that's what happened in this instance. I have that feeling somebody has used hasn't had a oil service for a while because oil filter seems to be leaking. Let's have a look. Yeah, oil filter seems to be damp. But either way, we need to drain the oil. I'll drain on the other side. Can't get to the other side. Right, it's got the square drive sump plug, 8mm square drive, just like that. If you don't have it, I don't think you'll be able to undo the sump plug, because normal 3/8 drive ratchet will not fit in that hole. It's too big, so you've got to have a socket. I'm sure you'll be able to get one. Well, you've got to drain the oil before, otherwise if you don't do it, the all oil gonna come out through the front cover. Not all, but a lot of it, enough to make a lot of mess. Right, and while the oil is draining, I can carry on removing the other under trays. You see, nice and square. Right. Take a few leaves off it. Okay. Now I've got to take this under tray off as well. Three screws. Oops, sorry. I've got to undo a lot of them pins again. Annoying little pins, but if you've got a tool, they're not too bad. If you don't, and if you're doing it with a flat screwdriver, it might be an idea to buy some new clips, because you'll probably end up breaking a lot of them. I'm not saying I'm not going to break without the or with this tool, but there's a lot less chances of breaking them. And there's plenty of them. The Nissans really don't want the undershields or wheel arch covers to come off. Don't like to be disturbed. Any more here? Oh, yeah. Okay. Nearly. Oh. When they get a lot of dirt behind them, they become really stiff. Right. One more. This one doesn't want to come out. Oh, right, that's it. I don't have to take it right out. That's enough. I don't have to take a wheel off. But if you want to, it makes it easier. But I don't need to. I've got plenty of access now to everything that I need to get to. I need to access to them bolts, to this bolt, obviously to the tensioner, So all of that needs to come off, but the belt needs to come off. But yeah, right now I'm gonna put the sump back in, sump plug back in. Not gonna do it up too tight because I will have to still come take it out. That's better. Nip up a little bit. That'll do. Right, oil is out. Now we can put the jack under the sump and jack it up so we can remove the engine mount. Don't be tempted to put jack straight onto the sump. Use a block of wood or something along those lines. Just a little bit, take the pressure off. Right, now we're ready to take the engine mount off. Disconnect it. Disconnect this aircon pipe a bit out of the way. $16mm socket. If you wouldn't jack it up the sump now, the whole engine would just go bloop and drop down. So you don't want to do that. Out of the way. I'll take this out of the way as well. Little fuel tank breather. Dangle out of the way. I will have to take this bracket off though, because it's on the way. There you go. Now we need to take this VVT caps off. It's like a channel diverting guides. I don't even know what the actually proper terminology for this thing is, but either way they need to come off. And slacken them first. All of them got the Loctite on these bolts. So when they come out, they do come out a bit tight all the way, sort of thing. They're not finger tight at all. Right. Oh, this one's got new bolts. So it looks like somebody had a go at them before. Because when these bolts normally come out, they've got like a Loctite on them all the way up here. So they do come out quite tight. I need to jack it up slightly so I've got better access. When you do jack up the engine, you need to always kind of be vigilant of what you're actually doing. See all the pipes on the top or the bottom, so they're not trapped, not pulling on anything. If you don't want to be snapping anything. Don't worry about this. They're different. They're symmetric, but they're not the same. So you cannot swap them. They won't fit the wrong way around. So don't worry about them too much. Okay. Now they're off. We've got one more bolt up here, but this one it gets up here. It's from the rocker cover. That's the only bolt that's facing down. But this bolt is on the way as well. This little bracket bolt is kind of on the way. Oh, it's a 10. Can't see from behind the bracket. Take your bracket completely off. It's quite tight as well. One thing you don't want to do is rounding them little, especially 8mm. Them heads are really easy to round off. So that's why I normally crack them off first. When you do it by hand, you've got a bit of a control over it. If you do this with a gun straight away, you can round them off quite easily. The bigger bolts, like I don't know, 13mm, 10mm, they're not too bad. But 8mm heads, they're very easy to round off, really easy. And then you've got to have an easy out and the different techniques try to get them off. And especially if it's a very tight corner, it's not so easy to get to. You can knock anything on the socket, any sockets on for easy out system. So it's best to crack them off by hand first. And then that way, it's just reduced the chance of, spending extra 2-3 hours on doing one bolt. There's one little 10mm bolt that holds the wiring harness on. This one, it's holding the one bolt here and then like a popper on the other side. See, it's like little popper like that. It's nothing really special. It just pushes in the hole. So you just pull it out. We do need to undo this VVT solenoids. You don't have to take them out, but you need to undo the plugs. They can stay in the cover. You don't have to touch them, But to undo the plugs is a bit of a challenge because you have to press this lever quite hard. And when it's in an awkward position upside down somewhere, especially somewhere at the back, it's not so easy. Right then. And also you've got this wiring harness clips into this cover from the back, so you can just undo it. On this side and the back, but at the back sometimes it's very difficult to get it at this stage. You can try, but if you don't succeed, it's all right. Yeah, nah. Once the cover is off, slightly off, you can actually physically get to it quite easily. But right now it's not so easy. Pick it all up and tuck it out of the way. There you go. Now I've got tons more room. Right, let's jack it up a bit more so I can actually undo these 6 13mm bolts. These 5 are the same. This one is longer. $13mm. Okay. Right, I'll have to jack the engine up again. Right, that's all the 6 bolts are out. Now we're pretty much done things at the top. Well, actually, I'm gonna try to loosen up the water pump pulley off. It's got the three bolts. Sometimes they come undone like that, or they do. If they don't, you just need to put a pry bar or screwdriver in between the other 2 bolts, and then undo them. Undo 2, the third one, and then just crack it. I'll do. Take this cap off, because that idler pulley will have to come off. Oh, there you go. Little cap. Right, all of that needs to come off, but not yet. At the moment, I'm going to lower the engine down. I'm going to remove the belt and the tensioner and the idler and the crankshaft pulley. But I'll do it all from underneath, and I'll drop the engine down now. Again, when you're dropping it down, again, look at all the pipes. You know, like this pipe, for example, that, like that. Nothing is trapped, nothing like catching or try to rip it or wedged into something. So you need to be careful. That's nice. 15mm socket, and undo the tensioner. Oh, not 15, 16 actually. I knew that, I'm just checking. Right. That's the belt off. We need to undo this idler. The water pump pulley should be able to, in theory, undo by hand, but it doesn't. I did loosen it, but still not quite loose enough. Right. Yes, your little water pump sprocket. You don't have to take the water pump off unless it's leaking and you want to change it. But then you will have to drain the antifreeze. You have to do a lot of things to do it. It's not essential. Water pump is not driven by the chain. It's just by auxiliary drive. So because of that, it's not really essential to change it. When it's cam belt driven, then absolutely, yes, you change that. One bolt in the middle, 13mm, and the tensioner is off. Right, now, I could take this center bolt for the crankshaft pulley off. It doesn't matter which position that is on, because you don't really see the timing at the moment. You won't see it until the front cover is off. So you can, and it's on the keyway, so you don't have to do anything. Just literally undo it. $19mm socket. Sometimes these sprockets can get stuck a bit. So just a bit of a wiggle and they come off. If they're really stuck on, then you might have to use the puller. but I've never actually I've done loads of them, never had to use the puller yet, but there is always a chance that you might need to be used. Then 13mm spanner, and then do the idler. Yeah. Oh, it's tight. Because again, this is Loctite on as well. Okay. Oh. Yeah, that's the idler. This one feels okay. It's a good chance to check them now, because I've had it before when there was a noise and we didn't have a clue where it was coming from. The alternator was replaced, and the water pump was replaced, and the noise was still there, and it was all because this idler was noisy. That feels good as well, because there is a chance they could go wrong. You can buy them separately, and they're off at the moment, so you can replace the whole shebang, but it's like, you know, depends how far you want to go with it. It's not essential. If they're not broke, there's no point fixing it. Okay. It's one thing, if you don't remove this undershield, the dirt keeps constantly going. Every time you touch it, some dirt keeps coming off from this wheel arch. So if you take it off, at least the whole dirt will be somewhere else. Right, we'll remove that. So now we can start removing the lower bolts for the engine, for the cover, timing cover. The 10mm bolt, and you just keep on doing everything you see. They're all the same, and you'll have two more here, and a 3 more 8mm bolts. They all need to come off. Again, these 8mm bolts, they are in a rather very awkward position. So this is the time when you don't want the heads to be rounded off, because I've had them before that when they're very tight, most of the time they will come off. Because these bolts are behind the idler pulley and you don't see them. And if you try to undo all the bolts and you don't actually remove the idler pulley, thinking, why do you need to take that off? Because it's not actually holding the cover, but it's because there's 3 bolts behind it. Right. And you've got 2 10mm bolts that you can't get to with a gun because they're behind the chassis. So you've got to undo them manual as well. You can use the ratchet, battery ratchet, if you've got one. Sometimes it's just quick to do it by hand. Well, that's the cover off. Or not off, but undone. Because we haven't got the oil, if you would have the oil in the system, once you start cracking, all the oil will just coming out from this gap, big time. So that's why you've got to drain the oil beforehand. You'll still have some come out, nothing in comparison to what it could have been. All right, there's a pry bar, and literally just lever it. All right, I've got to jack the engine up as high as I can possibly do. There you go. And now, once that cover is off, now you've got access to this wiring harness at the back. Just there. And it's off. And we just wiggle it out. Make sure that seal is still there, because it can be stuck to the other side. Right, now we just need to do a lot of cleaning. Well, maybe before I'll do the cleaning, I'm gonna have a look at the chain. Ooh, there's something there. Yeah, the tension is right out. It's not as bad as I've seen them before, but you shouldn't be able to do that. See that chain? It should be really tight. You can't do that by hand normally. Yeah, up there. Yeah, I shouldn't be able to do that. And the timing, that is right out. I've got some marks up here. These are chopped marks from his guide. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to do that. What I want to do, actually, the timing marks are, as you can see, even though it's a Nissan, it's got a Renault badge because it's a Renault engine. Yeah, so that's, you see that little cut here and there, that is your timing marks. And these marks, see the colored links on the chain, they're supposed to line up with these things, with these marks. And at the bottom, you've got on the little sprocket, you've got an arrow pointing down. But them being up this way, that means that the timing is more or less where it's supposed to be. It doesn't really matter in these engines because you do by the marks anyway. By these marks, not by where engine sits, because you've got all the colored links on the chain. So what I'm gonna do now, actually can take the chain off. I'll take the tensioner, the guide, and the chain off. Eight mil bolts. 8mm bolts. 8mm for the tensioner. See that tensioner? Once you took it off, that should, in theory, spring right out, but it doesn't. It's just seized. Yeah, once you loosen up these bolts, that should just shoot out, because you've got a self like a ratchet mechanism. Basically, it comes out, but it doesn't go back in unless you lever this lever, but nothing moves. Nothing moves at all. So that's tensioner seized. That means it does nothing. It's just sticking out as far as it goes, and that's it. You can't go any further. No good. The guide can just slide out. I don't like these marks. It looks like it's been rattling on something and cutting on something. All of that not supposed to be there. And that's supposed to be complete. There's a whole chunk missing. Whole chunk of this little border missing. That's supposed to be complete all the way to the end, but it's not. This one isn't. So there's something broke here. I'll take the guide off as well. 10mm bolts, 2 of them. You can do it from the bottom, but while I'm on top, might as well do it from the top if I can get onto it. Right, that's the idle, the guide. Let's see the condition of that. This actually doesn't look too bad. Okay. Now the chain can be slipped off from the bottom first, and then the top afterwards. Still doesn't want to come off. There you go. There you go. There's your chain. Well, before I do anything else now, there's a chance now to clean it all up. You don't want to start cleaning with the new chain on because everything is on the way. See, the front cover is actually stuck on silicone, and that silicone needs to be removed. It's quite nice when they come up with one big lump sums like that. So before I even start thinking about the timing,
Only I'm going to help you.
no worries. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
This
cleaning.
cover needs to be cleaned.
Yeah.
Same thing. All the silicone needs to be come off. So Charlie will do that for us. Lovely.
Yeah. Sorry, the customer not there at the moment. I'll help you.
Nice one. See, all them bits of silicone, it seems to be all stuck to the engine side rather than to the cover, which makes no really difference. They need to come off from both sides regardless. There you go. It's sticking out from the side, from the inside, outside, everywhere. Right, I've got my blade. Charlie's using the proper tool, scraper. I like my blade better. I feel more control with it.
This
Obviously,
one better for me.
yeah. Yeah, each to their own. Obviously, if you use a blade, whatever you do, just don't cut your hands off or fingers off or toes off, nose off, wherever you want to do. Just leave your body digits attached to your body when your skin intact. So you've got a little lump sticking out. See, there's your water pump right now, right here. So you've only got like a 4 or 5 bolts, whatever that is. Can't really see underneath.
Did you notice this one? Chain touch here and the damage edge.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Rattled up. See, it rattled and scuffed the top cover. Yeah. One of the guides is all bashed. One of the bits of guide is missing. So you don't want to have a chain rattle prolonged because I say, like, there's a possibility if it rattles, that means that it's loose. And there's a very high chance that actually can slip the tooth. Maybe if you slip one tooth, you might get away with it, but if it skips more than that, there's a possibility the valve can come in contact with the piston, and then you might sustain a severe damage to the engine. At the moment, all we do is just replacing the timing chain, and that's it, cleaning it up. It's not a small job, but it's nothing like taking the head off and replacing the valves and maybe the pistons even. Right. here at the top, you've got the rubber seal. That's kind of part of a rocker cover. So we're not removing the rocker cover, but I'd like to still clean it above it. See, with this seal, it has a tendency of popping out. So if you pop it in, and if you drag it from the bottom first, and then you try to force it in, forcing that way, it catches on the edge of this seal, and you can pull it out. And once that seal pulled out, there's nothing to stop the oil from leaking out. So it develops an oil leak. So when you pop the cover in, you try to wedge it in first from below up, sort of thing. So this end is engaged, and then you push the bottom in, and that way you actually leave the seal intact without damaging it, without trying to leave without the bits of tissue stuck in the orifices. Right then. Let's try to clean the bottom now. Let's lay down. Oh, that big lump. A bit of a silicone come out with a nice long strip.
Right. Nice and clean outside and inside also. Well,
See, when you do that, you spray that brake cleaner. A lot of that brake cleaner and washed off oil go in the sump. And that's why I haven't done up the sump plug yet properly, because I know it's all end up in the sump. So once I finish cleaning and put the chain on, I'll remove the sump plug, and all of that just gonna leak out from underneath. So I'm not too worried. I'd rather have engine clean than left with all this grease attached to the sides and then develop an oil leak somewhere at some point. Nice. And underneath. If you can see here, a little arrow, that's your timing mark. That's for the colored link of the chain needs to line up with. That's for the lower. The bottom ones, obviously, I showed you earlier, and that's the lower one. Right, nice and clean. And now we're ready to put new chain on, because now we're not gonna put all the dirt into the new chain. Nice. There's your chain. There's your new guides. The tensioner. See, this one is actually held by this little tool, because as soon as I pull the pin out, that should just shoot out. So that's why we don't want to do that. It comes with some extra sprockets, which we don't really need, because this has got 2 VVT sprockets. This is a non-VVT sprocket, so not required. And we got new bolts in the kit. That's for your guides and a tensioner, a new crank bolt. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. I will change that though. That's your oil pump chain tensioner. I'll change that because it's come in the kit. But to change the oil pump chain, you would need to remove the sump and you need to remove the oil pump, because it's not enough slack for you to change the chain like that. Even though it's there, you can see it, can get to it, we can't physically remove it. Not enough slack. So there's your tensioner. And there's your new oil pump tensioner on. Right. I need to have a look if I could see it. Yeah, that's on. Next, I'll be putting new chain on. Right, let's have a look at our colored links. Well, there they are. Barely see them. See the grey ones. So if you count them, we should be 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, including both of them. So it's like 11 including them. And there's a lower colored link. It's like a slightly darker color. Obviously, if you get a genuine kit, they're normally bright orange or bright yellow or something, or pink color. I'm not even sure what color the old chain was. Red, yeah. Yeah, they were red, orangey red color. Much easier to see, but it doesn't really matter. Right, feed that on, and you start at the top, because make sure that it goes on the correct side of the pin. There is a pin up here where the one of the guides slides over. So if you put it on this side, it will be very difficult to lift it over. So make sure the chain is on this side. As you can see, when I took it off, whole timing is jump big time, like big jump 2 teeth. So what I need to do is bring the time back to where it's supposed to be. If I can find my ratchet though. There it is. No, it's not 12. 13mm deep socket. And just go back until it lines up. Right. Now that lined up with this, that lined up with this, so the top is all lined up. Now I need to line up the bottom. I will have to recheck it several times, so it's no panic yet, even if it skips a tooth or something. And that's the lower one, lines up with this little arrow. Again, if it doesn't line up, you just need to turn it until it does line up. So there's a colored link, there's an arrow, and it's all lined up. And now I can fit my guides. Right, I've got the 2 guides, a whole bunch of new bolts. I'm not going to worry about the tensioner just yet. This guide, it goes this way with the little taller end facing up. Yeah, you can't probably fit it this way, but I don't know. But this is the way it's supposed to be. And up here you can see the little grooves, little borders sort of thing. So the chain has to sit between them, not on them. So when you do, make sure you actually push the chain with your finger. Got new bolts. Yeah, let's sit in where it's supposed to. Bolts are in, the only finger tight, just in case if we need to remove it again or something, so I'm not tightening anything. This just slides over. There's a pin there, and it just literally pushes in. That's it. Just simple as that. And now we can put tensioner. 2 new bolts for the tensioner as well. Don't pull the pin out yet until the timing is 100% there, done. You leave the pin in. You don't want to be looking for that piston shooting out somewhere, and then you're looking for it, end up buying new tensioner again. It's only finger tight, but it's on. And now we're doing the final checks. That's all lined up. That's all lined up with this groove as well. And the bottom as well. Yeah, the bottom is all lined up as well. Still, nothing moved. Yeah, push that a bit so the chain is in the grooves, so that I can tighten some of the guide bits, especially the lower bolt, because I can get to it now. Well, not the bottom. If I get that, there's the ratchet socket. That's my impression of the torque wrench. My little ratchet now is there. Oh, thank you. There you go. That's all the guides done up. Nothing moved, so now I can pull the pin out. And you see, when you pull the pin out, see how that thing just shot out. And that means that tensioner definitely works. And now the chain all of a sudden became, you just do one more click. Nice and tight straight away. And that's without oil pressure. That's oil pressure goes into that tensioner. So once the oil pressure builds up, it pushes it out even more to wherever it needs to be. But you've got the ratchet mechanism, so that means that it can't go back anymore. See, it's trying to, but it hits against the ratchet. So the only way it can come out, it cannot go back in. So that basically takes off the slack off the chain. But because the tensioner not worked in the last one, it couldn't take the slack off, and that's why it got a rattling noise. So now the chain, I just want to quadruple, make sure it's all good. Still there, still there. The timing. No, it won't skip, but you know, while it's all off, it's so much easier to look at it. It would be a lot harder if the cover is on. Unless you've got an X-ray vision, you would have to take it all apart if there's something not right. So on this stage, that is the most important stage where you have to make sure everything is lined up, because that's it. You've got no other go. Well, you've got to go now, but once it's all back on, you would have to strip it all apart. And that's it. That's the timing's on. That means that we can start putting silicone onto the cover. It's getting wet again. Good old British weather. 1 minute is hot, 1 minute is damp. Right, get some silicone. Oh, Charlie brought some here. And that's the end of it. Right. Yeah, I don't want to put too much on here because it's already got a rubber seal. I only put that extra just on the outside rather than the inside. I don't want to block up the oil waste, but I don't want to take the chance on this rubber seal. Right. Now I'm gonna have to do the same on the engine side because for these covers, to put them in, you have to be like a, like one of them games when it had the wire go over this, like, and you're not try not to buzz it. So it's the same thing. You have to try to put that in without touching anything, because once you touch it, it scrapes the silicone and it will leak in that gap. But that way, if I'll put it on there and on there, even if I'll touch it and scrape one bit, the other side's still gonna have a silicone. So it will be very unlikely to scrape in exactly the same spot on there and on there, so it will leak. So that way I'm protecting myself basically from the oil leaks. You don't have to put too thickly here, but then I just don't want the oil leaks. Nothing worse than the oil leak. Well, I suppose there is a lot of things worse than oil leak, but in the cars, I mean, you have a brand new driveway, for example, and you come up and you have a nice oil leak there, oil patch, and you didn't have that before. I don't think you'll be very pleased. Plus, you may even affect the MOT, because if you've got an oil leak, a very bad oil leak, it will fail the MOT. So that's why oil leaks are no longer permitted on the vehicles. Maybe tiny little smear of oil somewhere, that's not going to hurt, but if you're leaving the puddles behind, that's no. So I'd rather spend a few more minutes now putting a bit more silicone here and there. There'll be no leaks. Oh, I don't know where that come from. Right, there you go. Make the seal a bit slippery, then that way the gasket will go over it and slip in easily. It doesn't need silicone to seal, but if it goes dry on dry, there's a high chance of it being pulled out. Just don't put silicone on the chain itself or on the sprocket. I'll do the rest from underneath, but I just wanted to put some up here while I could. Then smear here. Okay. Do the rest from underneath. Other than that, you've got the now we've got the seal everywhere, all surfaces. So now even if I do touch something, I won't get an oil leak, because I've had it before. When I see, it's not too bad on the Qashqais, but if you've got a Duke, it's a lot tighter, and there's a very high chance that you'll scrape the silicone off. Okay. You have to, the water pump, you've got this fuel and aircon pipes. Okay. Okay. And that's what I mean. You have to bring that in first. See, it goes underneath, and then you kind of push it up to it. Oh, I need to get some bolts now. Okay. Obviously, you've got on both sides, you've got locating dowels. I see one bolt is a lot longer than the others, so that's the top one on the right. Well, most of them bolts are in. I've got a couple to get to, but I need to drop the engine down, but I'm not gonna drop the engine down just yet. Well, the bottom is in-ish, so now I can bring the top in. Oh, got to put a bolt in there. This. Well, that's the cover, more or less on. Put these 3 bolts in the middle. You see, you can get to them from the top or from the bottom, but it's awkward regardless, from the top or from the bottom. Last 2 bolts. The stem bolts are on. The idler can go back on as well. Right, that's the cap. Can go back on as well now. Idler is on. Can put the wiring loom back on. It just clicks in here underneath. backs in. So the bracket can go back on as well. It's not going away anymore. That can go on. Aha, 1.2 mil. Right. That's the wiring harness clipped in. That can go back on. Now we've got to do this 2 brackets. Let's clean them up a bit.
Afternoon, I've been sent quick fix said you might be out well.
Right. Righty ho. Right. Clean up the brackets or the oil channels for the VVT. We've got the O-rings 1, 2, 3. So make sure they stay there. 1, 2, 3. Right, now they're clean. You can see this little hole there, and that hole is on the other side. That means that this one goes here to locate. That hole locates with this pin. Same on this side. This hole into that pin. You can see the old silicone squidged out. So by this silicone, I can actually, by touching it, I feel like if it's already drying off, which is quite nice. It's quite quick set, that silicone. So just you don't want to start the car with the wet silicone yet, otherwise it will blow all the seals out and it just create more unpleasant situations for you. can go back on as well. And that bracket can go on now as well. Okay. Okay. Now this needs to go on, but I'm not gonna do it just yet. I'll wait until it's underneath bits are done. So we're more or less done on the top. We've done most of the bits. Now we need to do the water pump sprocket. Not sprocket pulley, but the make sure they're plugged in properly. I'll do them, and then I'll do the tensioner and do the rest of the cover bolts, because the cover bolts are not all done up underneath, because I don't want to be jacking engine up and down too many times. Sorry, that's the water pump, oil pump.
It's come with this one.
Yeah,
The dealer parts, not that one.
No.
That's why I'm thinking.
Right. Bring it down. Now. And that's it. That's all the cover bolts are on. You see by the residue of silicone on the water pump pulley, you can see that I've scraped the cover still, no matter what I've did. I thought I've done it gently, but I scraped a bit. But obviously, because I have put some silicone on this side, it doesn't matter. I know it's not going to leak. I can put the water pumps pulley back on. Mm-hmm. Three 10mm bolts. Well, they're actually M6, but 10mm head bolts. Ooh. Or we can just drop it instead. Right, do it up. Literally just pull a bar through. Wrong angle. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Tensioner back on. Signal socket. Right. Crank pulley got a bit wet. We'll need to make it dry. Because the inner bit is actually goes in the oil. We don't want to move water in the oil. Move this way. This part, it doesn't matter, but this bit, you don't want that going rusty, and then next time you can't get it off because it's rusted onto the crankshaft. Make sure there's a keyway there. Make sure the keyway is still on the crankshaft. You don't want to lose that bit. Yeah, you can feel the keyway there. It's in. Got a new bolt somewhere. It's still in the box. Oh, thank you. And then brand new bolt. Let's see. Oh, that's all the sprockets. All the auxiliary sprockets are on. Or pulleys rather. Now I can put belt back on. I should have a new belt there. Make sure they gave me correct belt to start with. 7 PK 1601. 7 PK 16. So 1 mil shorter. I don't think that'll make much of a difference. You see these numbers, they actually do literally mean the length of it in millimeters. 7 PK means you've got a seven them little hills rather than not the grooves, but the opposite of grooves basically. And 1600, means 1 meter 600 millimeters basically, or 1600 millimeters in length. That's what basically numbers on belt mean, in case if you want to know. Okay, now we need my ratchet with 16mm socket. Yeah, and put the belt back on. Okay. Make sure all the belt actually sits in its grooves. And that's it. If you have a look from this side, at least you'll see the direction of it in case somebody wants to know how it's supposed to go. See, it goes around this, around that way, around the aircon, around the idler, that goes around the aircon, the alternator, and underneath the water pump, just like that. So that the tensioner basically sits between them two, and the water pump sits between the alternator and the idler. And this belt sits, goes around the back of the idler up here as well. So it's quite simple, but idler work. The tensioner works. If you pull on the belt and it moves, it's your idler, and it got quite a lot of resistance, means your tension is fine. And if you pull on the belt and the tensioner moves and stays, that means the tension is not good, or you can't pull it at all on it. It's just, no matter how much pressure you put on it, something not right. Because it's spring loaded, so obviously it should spring. If it doesn't spring, no good. Okay, and that's the belt on. That means that we can jack the engine back up now again for the last time and put the engine mount back on. Okay. Let's retrieve my engine mount. Right, I think the engine is sitting a little bit too low still. Just a couple of turns. So now I need to move the engine a little bit forward and up. Again, don't try to put the gun on it straight away and go. Try to force them in, because they're on a bit of a angle, a bit on the pressure, means that you can cross thread them. There you go. Now it's sitting where it's supposed to sit. I can drop the engine down now. Drop it completely. And now I can undo the sun plug back up, undo it again. So wherever I've sprayed with a brake cleaners or wherever that was, the residue of the old oil that came out from the engine, if I undo it now, the rest of it all just gonna come back out. Didn't want it completely loose, so you would leak all over your jack and all that lot. Oh, you didn't want to do that. Drop the sun plug straight in the oil can. Never mind, good old magnet will fish it out. Right. While it's drizzling, I can do up there the rest of the engine mount. Well, that's the engine mount back on. Now that can, the breather can be clipped back in. And plugged in also. And clipped in. Aircon pipe can be bolted back down as well. That can come off now. Don't need that there anymore. That doesn't need to be there. So all the while the oil is draining, I need to undo the oil filter also, because that needs to be draining also. So if I'll undo that also now, need a 27mm socket and a ratchet, and just literally undo the cap. Ooh. Okay. Get rid of this. And now, while it's draining, I can put the rest of it back together now. Nice and clean cap, so that can dry as well now. Let's put the wheel arch back in. Actually popping in is slightly easier than taking it off. Okay. At least putting them in, it's a bit easier. All you do is just put that in and just push the middle button. Like I say, if they're broken, you might want to get some new ones. Right, that's that on. Next thing, I'm gonna put the new oil filter in. New seal stops the oil leak. Oil filter pushes in first. It doesn't go that way. It goes that way, just in case. You never know. Somebody might try some funny ways. And it literally pushes in and it stays there all by itself, and you just screw the cap back on. Right. Brake cleaners. Okay. All the oil leaks, wherever they had all around it, will all washed away. So if you had gonna be something leaking, we'll find it quite easily. Right. Good old trusty magnet. So drop the sun plug back in the oil tray. Saves me fishing out with my fingers. It's there somewhere. Still not found it. Oh, what happened to it? It dissolved. Oh, there you go. I thought it got dissolved in the oil. That would be funny. There you go. Now it's stopped drizzling now. Now we can put the sun plug back in. I'll do it myself now. Yes. Don't overdo the sun plugs. You've got a copper washer there that squashes. And if you squish it so much that it doesn't move anymore, you won't be able to get it undone next time. And oil is something that you need to change quite regularly. Right, that's the sun oil done up. That means that we can put the under tray back on as well. Just had a few self tappers in. Okay. That's that one. Oh, that was probably one of the hardest jobs. It's removing and putting the handy trays back on the car. My least favorite job. But there you go. Let's top up with some oil. I think I'll use the funnel for that. Obviously, oil has to be correct grade. And the correct amount. You don't want to overfill it. just above minimum. Obviously hasn't run around the filter either yet. I'll do for now. We'll start it up and then we'll recheck the oil level again. What I'm going to do now is drop the engine down, the whole car down, remove the axle stand. So the engine is sitting nicely. I can feel it. See that silicone that was squidged out before? It's nice and dry to touch. That means that the silicone is already set. I mean, full drying period on it is probably about 6 hours or so. But you can tell by the bit that's squidged out, you can feel it. You can feel they're dry. I mean, they're rubbery, but they're dry. That means that we're safe to start the car. We'll obviously leave it to set overnight, but you can start it now. No rattling. Yeah, so the chain has been stretched. Well, it's not really, technically speaking, it's not actually chain that stretches. It's the pins that go through the holes in the chain links. Their holes are wear out and they become like an egg shape. And along the whole length of the chain, just that fraction of a millimeter over the amount of, I don't know, 40, 50 links, that ends up to quite a significant amount. You know, so basically it's not chain actually stretches, but actually holes elongate and all the links start moving along on the pins slightly more, and that's why the chain looks longer. It's not, technically speaking, chain stretches, but a hole stretch. But it's easier to understand when you explain to the person the chain stretch. But yeah, but now we've got no more rattle. All I need to do now, check the oil level, clean up the car where I touched with my mucky fingers, and then and that's it. And the main thing, not to forget, is attach the sticker with the timing chain has been done, the time, date, and what's been done to it. And so the next time somebody has a look at it, the customer has a look at it, they'll know exactly when the chain's been done, and it's all without looking through any paperwork. There you go. And that's another successful job done by Sound Motors. And please do like, subscribe, and then any comments, leave a comment, and you can click on the notification bell, even better. And then that way you'll never miss new videos. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Nice one.
This is getting on.
Huh?
This one is getting old. Next time, do this, yeah? You see? Instead of do this.
People will think I'm
You need
flipping
to
some
add
sort of a
photos also.
millennial.